I just borrow it for 1 second. Dr. Wells Brown, dear friends, you know, when I arrived at NATO a few years back, and I was hired by the Secretary General, what do you do, Deputy Secretary General? You ask him to do things on your behalf. And I think the most challenging and the most exciting and the most rewarding job I got from Jens Stoltenberg was when he asked me to be the champion of innovation across the NATO enterprise. Challenging because it's not easy. Big organizations have their own way of doing things. The speed of innovation in the world is so intense, it's so accelerated that sometimes it's very difficult to catch up with everything going on. And of course, there is a big alliance with not every single allied nation having the same depth of their innovation ecosystems. They're different. Very large, very deep, smaller, and shallower. But what the NATO Science and Technology Organization, which I have the privilege to know firsthand as chair of the Innovation Board, is the elite of the elite. We are an elite organization, and this organization is the elite among the elite that NATO represents. So I'm so proud of all of you. I'm so proud of the thousands of superb leaders and professionals that are part of this unique organization. And if this alliance will continue to thrive for at least additional 75 years, because next year in April we'll be celebrating at a summit in Washington our 75th birthday, is because of you, and also because of you. So for me, as a former engineer, I was engineer once in my lifetime, but of course, not being talented enough, I had to go into politics and other things, and here I am in front of you today. So thank you for having me. And I'm delighted to be here today with you to launch the latest decision of your science technology trends. I know it's on screen, but I put it here because I want everyone to take a little bit of time and read it, go through it, and learn from it, as we do, the Secretary General, myself, and the leadership of the Alliance. That's, again, a great piece of work. Congratulations for everything that you have here. The new report provides an in-depth analysis of the major technology trends in the field of security and defense over the next 20 years. 20 years. And innovation and adaptation are in the genes, in the DNA of NATO. So nothing more precious while we are confronted with so many intense, immediate threats and challenges, to also keep a fresh eye and a profound mind towards the future, because 20 years is nothing. So, very useful tool for all of us. It provides an essential evidence-based analysis of why new technologies matter to NATO. Matter to NATO, but also to our citizens, to our governments, to our civil society, to our universities. Because the technological revolution that you know better than anyone else is going so ferociously is not going to impact only defense or security or economy. It's going to impact our very organization of human societies. And the competition with authoritarian regimes is not only about GDPs and weapons, or even technology, it's about the battle of ideas. So this is why shaping and understanding the future, us as democratic nations inside NATO, is paramount for everything we do. These technologies need to be better understood, how they evolve, which will be the impact. And that's what is so very important to our 1 billion citizens of our alliance, and hopefully we'll have a few more million in addition with our Finnish and Swedish friends coming amongst our ranks. It also will help guide today's and tomorrow's leaders. And I make this also for our younger generation, for our young leaders. And I see some of you here. I hope to see many more of you, and also more women, if we could also in the future. Because this will drive innovation and the innovation agenda forward. This will also help us make sure that we're investing in the right capabilities at the right time and also with the right level of anticipation to seize the potential while mitigating the risks of new technologies in a rapidly changing environment. I remember, Brian, I think the last report was, 2020? And that moment I really got, captured by the quality of this report. It was March 2020. And while its main assumptions and insight hold true, a lot has happened since in only 2 or 3 years. Not least, we have experienced a major global pandemic, the return of high-intensity warfare in Europe. Our security environment continues to be characterized by persistent instability on our borders, by transnational challenges across them, by threat of terrorism, which is still here with us, cyber, hybrid, space, climate change and security. Some friends are calling this polycrisis. And this is something that will continue to be faced. Financial crisis, God forbid. So this is something that is very important for us to anticipate and comprehend the full consequences of this broader definition of security. At the same time, new technologies are developing at a dizzying pace. Quantum computing, artificial intelligence, biotech, big data. These extraordinary technologies have the potential to basically make a revolution out of our lives and to help tackle some of the most intractable problems of human mankind, from curing disease to combating climate change, to transforming our economies. But their potential for harm is just as great, if not greater, as their potential for good. And many of these new technologies are also ubiquitous. With the same device, you can do good and bad at the same time, just with a switch of a decision. New technologies are not just changing the way we live and work, as you see in Ukraine. They will also transform the way wars are fought and won. So NATO is determined to make sure that they work for us and not against us. Or worse, for our competitors, who are rapidly developing and employing new technologies with little regard or disregard for human rights and international law. We do not just want to adapt and adopt these technologies at speed and scale, which is something that we are struggling to do. We will also develop and deploy them responsibly and ethically, in line with our values. This is what defines us as an alliance. It is what sets us apart from our competitors. And I'm proud to witness that in the NATO AI and big data strategy, we are probably the first organization of our dimension and relevance to adopt the ethical use of AI and big data. And we'll continue to do the same with biotech, with quantum, everything that will come, because in the end, this is the essence of democracy. And this is really the key differentiator between us and our non-democratic competitors. This latest edition of the Tech Trends report confirms the assumptions we made in NATO's new strategic concept adopted in Madrid by our leaders last July, that disruptive technologies are changing the nature of conflict and are becoming key arenas of global competition. Our American friends and allies will say that this is probably the most intense competition for global preeminence in the last few decades. To our European allies, we probably say that it's the first time in 5 centuries or so. This is intense. And where and how will evolve in the realm of innovation technology will probably define the outcome of this huge competition for norms and global preeminence. Strategic competitors and potential adversaries are investing in technologies that could restrict our access to and the freedom to operate. And as we have seen throughout history, that technological primacy translates into success on the battlefield. So our strategic concept pledges to increase our investment in emerging and disruptive technologies. And you've seen our Secretary General releasing the report, the annual report of NATO. And when you look to the numbers, how much nations invest in defense, and 2% should be a minimum. We're also looking not only to the numbers in quantitative terms, but also in qualitative terms. So the 20% for new equipments and new platforms is also very important. In our colleagues working with the next cycle of NATO capabilities and defense planning, we'll make sure that while we have to fight a high-intensity war in Europe, and for that we need investments in defense and deterrence, we should not make a false choice between going back to conventional or investing in high-tech. We should do them both. And in a way, this report, Brian, is also helping allies to really understand that, in fact, high-intensity war or new technology warfare is one thing. Now, two separate things. They go hand in hand, and they go together. And this is what the report will be helping us to do. The report also identifies 4 overarching characteristics that will define developments in defense technologies over the next 20 years. They will be increasingly intelligent, interconnected, decentralized, and digital. And this, in turn, will translate into military capabilities that are increasingly autonomous, networked, multi-domain, and precise. It also highlights, as we know, that patterns of innovation are changing. Big technology breakthroughs are no longer driven by governments or delivered by large defense contractors. The private sector, the small startups, the disruptors, the academics, are leading the way, providing 90% of the dual-use technologies for our security and defense. A new way for us as NATO and for our governments to engage with the rest of the triple helix is paramount for our perennial success. Compared to the last edition, this report adds energy and propulsion, electronics and electromagnetics to the list of disruptive technologies analyzed. As you know, our leaders in London back in 2019, they approved the current, what we call EDTs, emerging disruptive technologies, and the purpose and the obligation of the NATO Science and Technology Organization is to basically help us always look ahead and make sure that we are coming with policy. So these issues will be part of the next iteration of our EDT policy. And we'll see when and in which format our leaders will approve an extension of the list, because this is something which is so important to all of us. The report also underlines the importance of the cumulative effects of different technologies used together, presenting both new challenges but also new opportunities. It also recommends placing a special emphasis on synthetic biology, power generation, and sensing communications, which combine AI, biotech, big data, energy, quantum, and space, among others. I remember vividly when Brian was briefing the Innovation Board and saying that from the weak signals, I'll come back to weak signals, new materials is also something which is in the making. And with the problem of supply chain and rare earth, there will be even more interest and more money for us to identify material outside of the Mendeleev table. These are things that are coming. And these are things that this report and the work of all of you are helping allies and us and as an organization to understand and anticipate. Finally, we are not just talking about the talk when it comes to new tech. This report, we're also walking the walk. For the first time, the underlying research was supported by an AI-enabled search engine, STEM, the Science and Technology Ecosystem Analysis Model. And I like the analogy with STEM, the traditional acronym, because really it shows how much we need to put our approach to a whole-of-society approach when it comes to education. Teaching our kids and math and tech and science and arts. They go together. And I think not by coincidence, I knowing the creative mind of Brian and his colleagues, you really chose the same acronym because, in fact, they are part of the same ecosystem. This tool was developed jointly by the Office of the Chief Scientist and the NATO Communications and Information Agency, NCIA, again, another elite part of our ecosystem. It searches open source English language research papers for weak technology signals, cutting-edge research, which could point to next generation of game-changing technologies. You will find some of the graphs and data from STEM directly in the report. They also allow us to identify which nations and institutions are leading in different technologies and how these trends are developing over time. And through the ecosystem that Diana, the Defense Innovation Accelerator for the North Atlantic, has established, I'm proud to say that all allies have contributed, test centers, accelerators, many of them based in universities or government research centers. This is also part of the broader ecosystem that we need to put to work. But however much technology is transforming our world, it cannot totally replace the incredible human talent we have at our disposal. Our alliance is blessed with excellent academic institutions, creative companies, and access to venture capital, the bedrocks of innovation. In the latest academic ranking of all universities, 19 of the top 20 universities listed are on Allied soil, and 27 out of top 30. We have to make sure that we keep that edge. And we boast the very finest scientists and researchers, many of whom are here in this room today. This report would not have been possible without your expertise and insights, that of your colleagues, and for that we thank you all. As the pioneering American computer scientist Alan Kay said, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. Thanks to our unique network of over 5,000 scientists and engineers, through you, through the elite of the elite in this organization, you will not only keep us on the technological edge, will help us stay ahead of the curve, and together we'll make sure that our way of life and the security and peace for 1 billion of our citizens will be preserved also in the future. You represent the greatest defense research community in the world. And this helps our organization remain the strongest alliance in the world. Thank you again for your commitment, your leadership, and also Dr. Wells Bryan for having so much patience with a novice like myself in many of these things. So I close on the same positive note. Who would have believed in communist Romania when I was working on an engineering site in energy production that one day I will make it up to here and the Secretary General to ask a guy from Romania to be the champion of innovation in this greatest alliance of human history. And what I discovered from being here with this great organization is that, in fact, we are just formidable when we work together. So, for myself and my boss, the one who asked me to be the champion of innovation, our great Secretary General, Jens Stoltenberg, thank you so very much. Dr. Well, thank you and your team. And keep inviting me, because I will be keeping coming and eventually annoying you with a few words. Thank you so much. Great report. Keep it up.